Hi everybody, this is Khaki Jeter. This is my video presentation for EDEC 600 for our child development papers. The topic that I chose was family lifestyles and transitions. When I first picked this topic, I just found it really interesting just because we're going through a lot of transitions at our house right now. But I thought it was also a really broad topic, and so I was really curious about all the different things that come in to play when you're talking about lifestyle, and the different things that come in when you're talking about transitions. There's just so many different things on the outside that can affect a child at home and at school, and on the inside. And so I was just really curious and wanted to dive a little deeper about this. So I kind of tried to break it down in three main topics. So we're going to start off with the first one. The first one is just lifestyles. So I've listed a few of the different lifestyles that I read about and I found sources on, and just the different things that came into play when you're talking about children and their lifestyles at home. So I'm just going to read through these quickly and then I'll just kind of touch on them. So the different kinds of lifestyles. We have big family lifestyles, adopted children, same-sex marriages, single parents, blended families, and divorced families. Of course, there are way more than this. There are tons of different kinds of lifestyle choices that can affect your children. These are just the ones that I am familiar with, that I've come in contact with as a teacher, things that are a part of my family. And so these are just things that, I found to be the most relevant to my life. One of the first ones that I love to talk about is the big family. I had a little girl in my class this year when we were in school, that she has 8 siblings. Her dad's a doctor, her mom stays at home, and their family dynamic and their lifestyle is so amazing. I always just commend the mama, and I'm like, I just don't know how you do it. I do not understand how you take care of 8 children. And she just says, it's just part of our lifestyle. We knew we wanted a big family. We wanted to raise them out in the country where they could run around and, play with the dirt and with sticks. And so that's the kind of things they do. And that's how they're bringing their children up. And they have the most well-mannered, well-behaved children ever. Just their lifestyle and how it compares to mine is just so different. We have tons of the same beliefs and same values, but just because I only have 2 children and she has 8, it's just so crazy. I hear her talk about cooking supper, and how sometimes I can just throw 10 chicken nuggets in the oven and my girls are fine, and how she has to really prepare every day for dinner and think, how many people are gonna eat breakfast? What are they gonna eat for breakfast? And just these small lifestyle things can have just such a big impact on their family. The little girl that I have in pre-K, she knows all these things. She can tell you that her mama plans dinner for the entire week. It's written on a board. They all have chores. They know if they do their chores, they get to have a reward, whether it's play on your iPad, or you get to go ride your bicycle, or you get to have a friend over. They really utilize those children, and they help each other, and just their big family dynamic is just so awesome. I've also had some experiences with some adopted children. There's a family that lives near me that just adopted a little girl recently, and they already had one little boy. And just I was able to talk to her, and she just says how much their lifestyle has changed since they've took this little girl in. She said, you go from being all about this one child, and you think, this child came from me, so I'm gonna love it more, and then you bring in an adopted child, you have those worries and those fears that, will you be able to love it as much, and will they adapt to you? Will they fit into your household? And she said it's just been so amazing to watch her heart grow and her husband's heart grow and her son, to see how bringing in somebody else has really changed their whole life, and how it's just made them better people. So, but all these things can affect a lifestyle, and it can affect, even if it's the small things like your laundry, how much laundry are you going to have to do that day? The homework, how much time is that going to take? And so all this begins to play a part into the money, the time, and the love that goes into your children. When you have a big family, your money may be a little more scarce, and you may have to really plan things to make sure that you have the money to do everything. When you think about blended families, and you think about how you're going to bring those new people in, and how you're going to be able to have those conversations, and how will that change your lifestyle? If you went from having 1 child to 4 because of a marriage, how that can change the way your lifestyle is going to handle. And so you can take all these things and dive way deeper but I try to just keep it very, very on the top, just because they can become so broad, and I knew that it would just take over my paper. So I'm going to move on to the next one. The next one was a new sibling into your family, and how that this can change your lifestyle, and how it can also be such a huge transition. This is such a big part of my life right now. I have 2 little girls, and I'm pregnant with my 3rd child. And so I have been there, and I've seen from the beginning, and I've had, bringing home the 2nd, and now I'm going to get to experience when you bring home the 3rd. So I'm going to kind of go through some points that were brought up with a new sibling, and how it can be hard transitioning into that. All right, so the first one was transitioning for couples with new babies. I always like to revert back to, we have a couple friend, they've been married for 8 years, and they just had their first baby. And just watching them, it was just fun experience for me to see it from the outside. They've been so used to it being just them two for so long, that when they brought home a new baby, it wasn't that they didn't love their baby, it wasn't that everything wasn't perfect, but it was such a huge adjustment for everybody. Just the hopping in the car at 8 o'clock and running to Walmart, that was just something they were used to doing, and they couldn't do anymore. So it was just so fun to watch them. It can be as much of a transition for the parent as it is for a new baby, because you bring home a new baby. As a new parent, I didn't know what to do. I was scared to death, and so it was it was hard. So it was fun for me to be there and to be able to help them, and kind of give them any advice that I could. But it was also fun to just see them become such great parents, because they were so used to it just being them, and it always just being them, to bringing home this this precious baby, and watching them adapt their life and change everything kind of for this baby. All right, the next one is bringing home a new baby with older siblings. I've got to experience this one time. Like I said, I have 2 little girls. My youngest was 3.5 when we had our second, and she was just amazing. I thought, she's gonna hate her little sister. She's gonna feel left out. She's gonna think I don't love her anymore. But it was the total opposite. She became an immediate little mama. She wanted to help me do everything. She loved her, and still to this day, yes, they fight, but you can tell that they already have such a close bond. But I know that that's not how it always works. And I know that with this 3rd baby that I'm having, that may not be how this works. It really is about the preparation. I tried to make sure that I spread my time evenly. I try to spend as much time with one as I do with the other. I do special things with my older one that maybe the younger one can't do. So it's all about just making sure you're given that love and affection separately, as much as you can. I know that it's hard with working families and things like that. So that's just the way that I try to keep everybody happy, and everybody just on the same page. All right, next we have resentment. So this is something that I am worried about with the 3rd. I'm worried that I've already got 2. Are they going to think that they weren't good enough, and I need to have a 3rd one? Are they going to resent this baby and think, well, they've took my mom, and now she doesn't have time to play with us? So my husband and I have already been talking about how he's going to step in more, and make sure that he's spending time with them, and getting them out of the house and taking them to do things, just so they get to have those other experiences. But this is a problem that comes into family, where the dad may even resent the mother for she may be go through a postpartum depression, and they may start having conflict. So it can be more than just siblings. It can be the moms and dads, and if the moms and dads are fighting and not happy, that can also have a reaction on your children. So it's just another thing you have to be prepared for when you're bringing in new children into the family. Disruptive behavior. When you bring in a new sibling, there's always going to be that chance that somebody is going to go the opposite way and become disruptive, and maybe not be very happy with the new situation. So the best thing that you can do, again, is just make sure you're showing that love, showing that time, and showing that affection, and giving it to them individually. If they are having some disruptive behavior, of course you need to be a parent and be able to discipline them in the way that works for you. But you have to also understand where they're coming from. And then differentiation pattern. This is just, you've gone from sleeping till 8 o'clock at night, and now 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you have a baby and you're up every 3 hours. This is going to change your patterns. This is going to change, what time you get up to get ready for work. This is going to change, who's cooking breakfast, who's packing the lunch. This is just going to change everything. So that can also change the behavior of your children. If they're used to one way and all of a sudden you're changing, got to make sure that you're preparing them for this. You got to keep everybody on the same page. All right, and then my last topic was, let me move this over a little bit, was daycare transitions. I've been through this. I know probably most people have, especially if you're a teacher. You go through the transition of you're going back to work. You got to put your kids somewhere. So daycare transitions can be a big part of a child's life because of busy working parents. They may think, well, my mom, they're so busy, they got to drop me off somewhere else. And sometimes that's great. My kids love daycare. I never had any issues there, but some children have a feeling of abandonment. You have to ease your children into daycare and allow the people there to be the role models for your children. That one was a hard one for me to adapt to. I was so used to being the mom. I was so used to being home and, being a teacher. We have great hours to be a mom. And so it was hard for me to let go and understand that, Miss So-and-so at daycare may be, my child's new favorite person. And it was hard for me to accept that. But once I did, it was so great. I was able to say, well, I'm going to call Miss Cindy at daycare and, tell her that, you weren't listening to me today. So I started using it to my advantage. But it's just easing them in and making sure you don't just one day wake up and say, we're going to daycare today, and take them to daycare and never really say anything. So one thing that a lot of sources recommended with daycare is that if you're going back to work in a month, maybe go ahead and send them 2 times a week, or send them every day for a couple of hours, just whatever works best for you, just to ease them in, just to help them into daycare. You just don't ever want them to feel like you have become so busy with your job that you've abandoned them and just thrown them to the wolves, to somewhere that you don't know. I tried to always make friends with the teachers at daycare just so my children would see, hey, my mom and her are friends. They get along, they like each other. If she likes her, then I, of course, can like her. But this can be such a huge transition, so we just want to make sure that we ease them in and we prepare them and just make sure that, everybody's happy, because you don't want your child to go to daycare and then you pick them up and realize that they've been miserable all day, because that's the worst feeling as a mom. So just, make sure you do your research, find the daycare that works best for you. So I get it to change here. All right. And then in conclusion here, oh no, I don't know what's happening. All right, so in conclusion, all the different kinds of lifestyles and transitions can affect children differently. How do we deal with these changes? What do we do as parents to ensure children do not respond negatively to these changes? So what you have to do, like I've said through this whole thing, you've got to pace yourself, and you've got to ease children in. You cannot just jump into something without telling them what's happening. So through all this reading and all these sources and everybody that I've talked to, my main thing is just making sure that you show these children that you love them and showing them how much you care and easing them into this. It's the best way, and it's going to really show them how much you love them and how much you care. Thank you.